Less than a month after the fall of the previous government, France finds itself once again reshuffling power at the top. The new government announced in Paris has a distinctly familiar feel. Of the 18 ministers named so far, 12 are holdovers from the last cabinet. What was billed as a fresh start is, in many ways, a continuation of the previous political lineup. The two most striking changes involve familiar figures stepping into different roles. Former Economy and Finance Minister Bruno Le Maire has been moved to the Ministry of Defence. It is a high-stakes portfolio that puts him in charge of national security at a time when Europe's geopolitical environment remains tense. Le Maire's appointment is meant to reassure both France's allies and its own citizens that continuity will prevail in strategic decisions. He takes over from Sébastien Lecornu, who has now been elevated to the office of Prime Minister. Roland Lescure, a former industry minister, has been tapped to lead the powerful Economy and Finance Ministry. His immediate challenge is to steer the upcoming budget through Parliament and to keep the opposition from toppling the fragile new cabinet. Lescure inherits a complex economic landscape, inflationary pressures, debates over energy transition, and the lingering social discontent that helped bring down the previous government. Other key ministers remain in their posts. Jean-Noël Barrot continues as Minister for Europe and Foreign Affairs, projecting French diplomacy abroad at a time of growing global tension. Bruno Retailleau, the Interior Minister, keeps his portfolio responsible for domestic security and law and order issues that weigh heavily on the French public. Yet the opposition has not been shy in its criticism. They argue that Prime Minister Lecornu has fallen short of his pledge to deliver a new beginning in both content and form. For them, the reshuffle represents political recycling rather than genuine renewal. The political choreography unfolded against a backdrop of intense media scrutiny. Cameras followed the comings and goings at the Élysée Palace, where the newly formed cabinet gathered for its first official meeting with President Emmanuel Macron. Macron, for his part, has signalled his determination to keep France's course steady, projecting unity despite the underlying political turbulence. In archival footage, we see François Bayrou leaving the Élysée after meetings during earlier transitions, a reminder of how often French politics returns to the same personalities in moments of crisis. Scenes inside the National Assembly capture the tension of past debates, with opposition lawmakers brandishing their voting cards in protest during Michel Barnier's earlier policy speeches. These images underscore the recurring theme of confrontation between executive power and a divided parliament. Bruno Le Maire's long record as economy minister also features prominently in the collective memory. In one particularly resonant statement from April 2020, at the height of the pandemic's economic fallout, he declared, "We have decided to release €500 million in reimbursable advances for small firms to help them get started again. This will give them the cash flow to buy the stocks they need, restart, and then they will pay back when they will be stronger enough." That decisive tone helped define Le Maire's reputation as a pragmatic crisis manager, an image he will now seek to project in defence matters. Sébastien Lecornu, before becoming Prime Minister, built his own profile as Armed Forces Minister. On a diplomatic visit to Australia in 2022, he spoke of the importance of rebuilding trust after strained relations over submarine contracts. In his words, there is a relationship of friendship between France and Australia. Like all friendships, they have had their ups and downs. I think I can say that we are in a spectacular recovery and a spectacular warming of the relationship. And I would even say it's better. Beyond friendship, from now on, we have the imperative duty to create an intimacy, an operational intimacy between the two armies, an operational intimacy because we are precisely on the same side. That notion of operational intimacy between allies has taken on new significance as he steps into the premiership, facing global challenges that demand closer military cooperation. Roland Lescure's public remarks reveal a focus on practical issues that touch everyday lives. Speaking about access to essential medicines in early 2024, he assured citizens, "Today, our fellow citizens who are prescribed paracetamol or amoxicillin receive paracetamol or amoxicillin, rest assured." That said, are there tensions in the market? The answer is yes, because worldwide over the past 4 years, the consumption of medicines has been extremely volatile, and we all know why. That candid acknowledgement of global supply chain pressures shows the kind of hands-on economic stewardship that will now be tested at the helm of France's finances. In another campaign season comment, Lescure highlighted the balancing act between governance and political ambition. And yes, well, a campaign is underway and will continue as fully as possible. He obviously mentioned, without dwelling on it, the international news that will take up much of his time as president. The candidate was there, very much present, and he will remain so as much as he can. His words suggest an acute awareness that, even as ministers focus on policy making, political calculations are never far from the surface. Jean-Noël Barrot, who retains his foreign affairs portfolio, recently warned of rising threats to democracy itself. Speaking in Boston, he stated with stark imagery, "Prosperity, welfare, peace, democracy has brought so much to our civilization. And France and the US have contributed to all this. Yet, wherever I look, fundamental rights are challenged. The rule of law is contested. Wherever I look, I see democracy under fire. And fire is set, first and foremost, by enemies of democracy from the outside. Authoritarian regimes that fear democracies like vampires fear sunlight. They fear it like a deadly virus. Nothing worries them more than it spreading to them. When democracy gets too close to their border, they will do anything to prevent this from happening." These remarks frame the broader diplomatic mission that Barrot will continue to pursue amid increasingly polarized international relations. Back home, Interior Minister Bruno Retailleau made clear his determination to strengthen the party's electoral machinery. He insisted, "But together we need to rebuild a war machine, an electoral war machine, tomorrow, to win the municipal, senatorial and other elections." His call underscores the political stakes that loom over the cabinet, with local and regional elections on the horizon and public confidence at a delicate juncture. The visual record of French politics over the past decade provides vivid context. Lecornu, as a junior minister meeting local authorities in Saint-Martin in the aftermath of Hurricane Irma, Macron and Bayrou together in Pau during consultations on Sahel security, the National Assembly in full session under the watchful eyes of the media. These snapshots tell a story of continuity, the same actors facing new crises, new portfolios, but often the same fundamental challenges. For President Macron, the task now is to project stability and purpose. By retaining seasoned figures in critical ministries while reshuffling leadership at the top, he aims to reassure both investors and international partners that France remains a predictable player on the global stage. At the same time, he must navigate domestic unrest and political fragmentation with the opposition ready to exploit any sign of weakness. Today's first cabinet meeting, convened at the Élysée, is as much about symbolism as substance, a chance to present a united front and signal readiness to govern effectively. For many French citizens watching at home, however, the faces around the table evoke memories of earlier promises and unresolved grievances. The challenge for this government will be to convince a sceptical public that familiar names can still deliver new results. As the afternoon light fades over Paris, cameras capture the moment the ministers step out of their cars and enter the presidential palace. Their expressions are composed but betray the weight of expectation. Reporters line the street outside, posing sharp questions about reforms, public spending, and the durability of this new coalition. The air is thick with both anticipation and doubt. France's political story often unfolds as a drama of continuity amid change. This latest reshuffle is no exception. It reflects a country searching for fresh energy while relying on experienced hands, a nation balancing the desire for renewal with the demands of stability. For the next few months, the success or failure of this cabinet will hinge on its ability to pass the budget, manage external crises, and address domestic concerns without being derailed by political infighting. The stakes are high and the scrutiny intense. As the new ministers take their seats in the Élysées' ornate chamber, France once again watches closely, hopeful yet cautious, to see whether the promise of renewal will become reality or remain just another chapter in a long-running political saga.